To goal set or not to goal set? That is the question. And in this video, I talk with wellbeing coach Danny Evergreen and brand designer Laura Robinson about goal setting. We'll be sharing techniques on goal setting, what works for us and what doesn't. And we hope by the end of this video, you are inspired to do what's right for your business. I'm Laura Bean and this is Creative Little World.
So this week we are all talking about goal setting and setting goals in your business or setting goals for your clients. So ladies, it's a big topic. It's quite a juicy topic. Now, do you set goals? Are goals something that you believe work for your business? Do you set big goals or do you set small goals? There's a lot to talk about with goal setting. So over to you. How do you feel about it, Laura?
Well, I've got a love-hate relationship with goal setting because I think originally, or I've worked with people in the past where goal setting has been a big part of it, but the goals have almost been too big. So what I've found has worked since then, and I try to implement it. It's great to have a big goal, like, you know, where do you want your business to be in 5 years, or, you know, a life goal, what you want to achieve. But it's definitely the smaller goals along the way that I've found made the difference of, moving the needle. And I think it's that building up in between the setting your big goal, but then breaking it down. And those small goals are the things to focus on. And that's what has really helped me move from, you know, the idea to the bigger goal. But yeah, so for me, it's finding the small things in between, whereas I know a lot of people go for big goal setting, but I'm more of let's start with a small goal.
Do you take your big goal and cut it into chunks then? Are you one of these that, like, you know, have like a huge 5-year goal and then go, right, month 1 I need to do this, month 2 I need to do that? Are you that kind of goal setter? Or
yeah, definitely, because I think, I mean, for me the big goal is too big. It's great, but to get there I need to know what elements I need to do. And it might be that, okay, I need to, something as simple as update my website, and what does that look like, and break that down into goals. Because otherwise I find I get to my desk and I'm almost overwhelmed with it, because I'm like, there's too much to do. Whereas if I break it down, go, well, actually you've just got to update that page to say X, Y, and Z, then it moves the needle again, because I'm like, okay, well, let's just do that. Whereas I think the danger of goal setting is sometimes they're just too big. So although you need them, I think they're important. Breaking it down to what actually gets you to that big goal is the key.
as a procrastinator planner, because I like to procrastinate and, you know, take hours to do things. Danny, is this a really good way for us to hide and not actually achieve anything? As a mindset coach, come on, hit us with it.
It's really funny, isn't it? So everything that Laura was just saying, I really resonate with. Personally, in terms of my business, I definitely find that what you were saying, Laura, works in terms of, you know, start with that idea and then breaking it down. But I actually love the really big goals as well, and particularly for working with clients. And not because I want people to necessarily achieve them, although of course we've got a life vision, we kind of want to achieve it. But actually it's for exactly what you were just saying, Laura Robinson, that it's about all the things that we do to kind of procrastinate. So the big goals, sometimes the reason I ask clients to set them, it's not because I need them to achieve them, and it's actually irrelevant if you achieve them, but it's about going, well, what would you love your life to be like? And then actually, what are the things that right now are stopping you from believing you can achieve that right now? And then that's when all of those limiting beliefs and doubts and fears pop up. And then that gives me all the stuff to work with that client. So yeah, there's a balance, isn't there? Sometimes we set smaller goals because they feel safer and they keep us kind of more in our comfort zone. And we go, well, actually, yeah, I'd kind of like to do that, but that feels a bit too scary. So I'll just take a slightly smaller goal because I know I can do that. And the danger of that is then you're not going to maybe achieve as much as you want to, or like your full potential. But then the flip side is that if you set a really, really lofty goal, then it just is really, really overwhelming. So I think it's that finding that balance, have the big vision, and then use that as an opportunity to go, what are the things that are maybe getting in my way that I could work on so that that looks more realistic and seems like something I can achieve. And then, okay, what's one thing that is in alignment with that? I think that's the really key thing. So what Laura Bean was saying about, you know, setting that smaller goal, if she wants to update her website, there's a reason behind that. That's in alignment with the bigger goal that she wants for her business. So it's still going to be moving her in the right direction. And then breaking that goal down into the specific steps that are going to help us to get there, rather than going, okay, I want to run a marathon. Why? I just do. Okay, cool. But I also want to spend loads of time with my family. Well, do those two kind of work together? And I think that's where we cause ourselves problems a lot of the time. So looking at that kind of bigger life vision can be a good way as well of making sure that the smaller goals actually fit into kind of what you want for your life.
So Danny's been listening to my conversation this weekend, because I literally ran 14k this weekend and did think, do you know what, I could run a marathon, and then got to the end of 14k and thought, no. No. So we're all like, it's like the snowball effect, isn't it? You start with a small ball and it gets momentum. But I find, and this is maybe just me, I get lost. So I set a really big lofty goal, and I'm looking at my whiteboard behind the screen now, which it's written on. And then I just get, you know, it's back to that imposter syndrome. It's back to, right, I need to sit down and I need to write step by step by step by step. But then life happens, business gets busy. So I suppose as an entrepreneur, how do we keep on track with our goals? How do we make sure that we stay accountable to ourselves? Because it is only us. We haven't got a boss who's nagging us. So what do you guys do to keep yourself accountable to hit those goals?
Well, it's funny because I like you, I've got a board over here with all my, so I've got a big bit of paper with the main goal in the middle, and then post-its around it of like how I get to that. And what I'm bad at is sometimes remembering to go to that and say, well, what do I need to do? Like sometimes I sit here and I'm like, what do I need to do next? And actually when I get up and go to that and I pick a post-it and I was like, right, that's what you need to work on now. This is going to be a step towards that. So I think it's just, it's breaking it down into tasks that works for me personally, because it's one thing having a goal and saying, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z. That you almost have your big goal, don't you? And then your subheadings are what you need to do to get to that goal. And then those need to be tasked out. So what tasks? And I think for me, it's setting tasks and putting them in my, I use Capsule or whatever task management system you're using, and setting myself the task and putting dates on them. And that's how I kind of keep myself accountable, because if it's physically in there and needs to be ticked off, then it's like that becomes my boss. It's like, you haven't ticked this, and I find it, I need to tick it, that's the satisfaction of ticking off a task. Helps keeping me accountable. But I think for me it's turning the goals into specific tasks, which is what I find works.
What about you, Danny? What do you find?
Yeah, I think that definitely resonates for me. I think it's about as well being really realistic in like a short-term basis on what can you actually achieve. Because I know I'm brilliant at going, right, I'm going to do that this week, and then life happens. And how realistic is it actually to do all those things? And I tend to expect too much of myself, and that's very easy to then feel very frustrated, and you start to feel like you're failing and you're not achieving everything you wanted to, and that doesn't help us to achieve our goals at all. So I think it's like, go back and revisit the goal regularly is really important, because it's so easy. I definitely do that, where I kind of go, what am I working on at the moment? Like, what was the goal? Look at the plan again, and be okay with the fact that might change, and your goals might change. Like, my goals are not going to necessarily be the same now as they were in January, because things have changed. My life has changed. Things have gone well in the business. Things have maybe happened differently. I might have become aware of stuff that I hadn't even thought of before. So I think, goals can change, and that's totally okay. But also being realistic that, okay, this week I didn't get as much done as I wanted to do, so I'm just going to shift the plan for next week, but not give up on it. And then the other thing that I think works really is important to me is to recognize what I have done, and to kind of give yourself that little pat on the back, because we tend to always be focused on like, what's next, what else do I need to do? and you forget about what you actually have achieved. That, you know, oh, I wanted to do that, and at the time it might seem like a really big deal to actually start, and once you've started, you just kind of go, oh, yeah, I'm doing that now. But you don't take the time to stop and go, oh no, but I've done that, like, and I've done that really well, so I have made progress. Even if I'm not maybe where I wanted to be, I'm still moving in the right direction.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
that whole thing, isn't there, about, you know, you spend so much time trying to get to the goal that you don't enjoy the process, and you don't take time over the process or appreciating what you've done so far, and you're so focused on achieving that goal and reaching that goal that it's almost you get to it and you go, oh, because you haven't really paid attention along the way of what you've been doing, and celebrating the fact that you've been reaching little goals as you go.
But as an entrepreneur, are we terrible for doing that? We do not clap to ourselves, do we? We do not cheer ourselves on. It's always the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And it is a bit of a hamster wheel being an entrepreneur, isn't it? Because you're always trying to either learn the next new thing that's coming out or be ahead of, you know, AI or whatever. And it's all, you are kind of constantly going on that wheel and not actually stepping back and going, do you know what? I've had a fantastic year this year, or I've worked with like dream clients that I never thought I'd work with, and we don't really cheer ourselves on. You know, we could do with our own little award ceremony as entrepreneurs.
And I think that from a wellness point of view, one of the things I like to ask people is about, rather than goals necessarily, because goals, we tend to think a lot about achieving something, which is great, but also about intentions and how you want to be. So it's not just about, you know, how much money you want to make or what you want to achieve in your business, but it's also about how do you want to be and how do you want to feel in that process. You know, if you've got children, a big part of running your business is going to be spending time. Like I know for you, Laura, you take time off in the holidays to spend with your children. That's a key part to how you run your business. So one of your big intentions is going to be about that time. It's, you know, and that is, you could say that's a goal, but, you know, it's about how do you want to feel? How do you want to be? Do you want to be able to really enjoy that time with your family? Or do you want to really enjoy your holiday and not spend the whole week before running up to it, trying to get everything done at mad, you know, pace, which is what happens to most of us. So I think it's also about taking into account those other parts of our life that are included in that are really important to us, you know, and making that a part of when we're looking at goals, so that, yeah, you might not have achieved that goal that you set, but actually it has an amazing holiday and I really enjoyed it with my family, and that's as important to me. So therefore, that's brilliant, fantastic, and next time maybe I need to give myself more time, or, you know, and it's about that reflection so we can learn from it, but without beating ourselves up, because like you say, we give ourselves a hard time and we don't tend to notice all the great stuff.
Yeah, I've started making sure that I put a deadline on some of my goals. Like consistency was a big goal for me this year, and you know, obviously running up to having a big break off with the kids and that, I needed to make sure I kept my consistency up. So I put like a deadline on it. So as long as I'm consistent, then that is that goal achieved. For I've got to be consistent for a month, and then it was like, right, I need to be consistent for 3 months to try and form a habit, and that was my goal. And it's not a money goal, it's not a goal that I could actually measure, apart from the fact that I can look back and say, yeah, you've been consistent. And I actually put post-its in my diary, and I'm like, right, if I keep consistent till this post-it, then I've achieved that goal. And yeah, and same with actually my business goals. I have a post-it, and each week I move that post-it on, just to remind me that this is the goal, because I do have a habit of getting stuck into work and stuck into other things and forgetting to work on the business. So that's a big issue for me.
Yeah,
so
I think that's a big thing,
help.
isn't it?
Yeah,
for entrepreneurs especially, it's you know, we're working with clients and you're doing their work and doing jobs around them, and sometimes you forget, or you don't allow time for you working on your business and what that looks like, and what that, you know, I've done that so many times where I've had my own tasks set out, and you know, I've moved them because I'll do this client work, that's, you know, I prioritize the client work, and then I just keep pushing my stuff, and I was like, no, actually allocate time, that, you know, an hour, whatever that might be, just for that, and allow my business to come first for for that time, because otherwise it's not going to move forward. And that's, I think, where a lot of entrepreneurs, freelancers, like they spend so much time in the client work, they almost don't give themselves permission to spend time working on their own stuff.
Yeah. So when you're setting a goal then, Danny, how do you go about it? What do you do? Do you take an hour out? Do you take a day out? Do you sit down with post-its? How do you plan your goals for your business?
Yeah, I love a post-it. In fact, I like a big post-it. So I don't know if you guys have seen, I've got these like big post-its. So I love these. You can get them freeze. I'm sure other places do them, but that's where I got them from. So I like them because I can kind of make a bigger, like, I love a spider diagram, all that kind of thing. And I have to work backwards. That's how my brain kind of works. So I'll go, yeah, okay, this is my big vision. Okay, where are we at? Maybe in a year. And then let's go 6 months. And then I read a book called The 12-Week Year, which is basically, you know, your 3-month kind of planning. So I try to kind of use that, and I go, right, okay, 12 weeks, what's the goal? And then, yeah, break it down. Lots of colored pens, lots of post-its. And I try to kind of, it doesn't always happen because life, but I try to kind of do a weekly plan session once a week, often on a Sunday or like a Monday morning, and just give myself that time. Because what I've learned is that it's very easy to go, I haven't got time to plan, but actually making that time to plan saves me time the rest of the time, because then I sit down and I know what I'm doing, rather than that's the point where you sit down, you go, what am I doing now? And I've got like a big planner that I use. So yeah, kind of my diary and planner all in one. So I, again, revisit, and each kind of week set out, these are my tasks for this week, and then kind of how am I going to fit them into my diary? But one thing that I always make sure is I prioritize those things that are really important to me, like spending time with my husband will go in the diary first. And I've got like a coach of mine, he wants to play golf once a week for half a day. That's always in his diary. So everything else has to fit around it. And I think what you were just saying, like, as being entrepreneurs, it's very easy to put all your clients' work first and not your work and stuff like that. So sometimes it's like, okay, this is a priority for me. I'm going to schedule, even if it's only a couple of hours, in the diary, and then I'll fit the other work around it, rather than what we tend to do, which is go, I'll do what everyone else needs, and then I'll figure out myself. And that's just in life, right? Not just in terms of goals, but just in life in general. Sometimes you need to prioritize that little bit of time for what you need, from a kind of mindset wellness point of view, and then you're in a better place to do everything else that is for everyone else.
So do you plan like once a year then, or are you kind of like a January, you're like new start, or are you like, do you look at it every 6 months? How often do you look at your goals and set goals?
Yeah, I mean, both. So I'll definitely do kind of I love a January kind of like, right, what's the year ahead kind of thing. But then I will also check back in regularly. And if I use the kind of 12-week year kind of thing, so I kind of quarterly will reassess and go, okay, what wasn't done well. Then also do a shorter version like monthly. This isn't an ideal world, it doesn't work, but yeah, in an ideal world, once a year, once a quarter, once a month, once a week. So I kind of, that helps me to kind of go, am I on track? Have things changed? Do I know what I'm doing? Is that still a priority? Rather than, I think if you do it once a year, it's a great starting point, but if you don't look at it regularly enough, you do kind of just go off track, or you realize like 6 months later that I don't know if this is even the right thing for me anymore. You know, it's that whole thing of, is your ladder leaning up against the right wall? You could be working really hard and then suddenly realize this actually isn't quite right anymore.
Oh, I love that. Is the ladder on the right wall? What about you, Laura? How do you do your planning? How do you do goals? Are you once a year thing, or are you?
I'm very similar to Danny, actually. It's, yeah, the big picture for the year. And I love that. I mean, I love this time of year for that. It's, you know, it's starting to plan for 2024 and, you know, thinking ahead. And I do love that. But I think, as Danny's quite rightly said, if you don't regularly check in and go back and make those sort of smaller goals and tasks that all point towards the bigger goal, then you could be way off track. And sometimes, you know, I have to stop myself and say, what you're doing right now, what's that for? What is that actually is it moving you towards where you want to be? Or is it, you know, just something I'm filling the time with, or I've gone off on a tangent because quite often when you get other people involved, you know, you get part of these like communities or other things where everyone's sort of feeding you ideas and suggestions for your business. I mean, I can be terrible going, oh, that's a great idea, I'll start that, and I'll suddenly start working towards something that I think, this isn't where you're supposed to be going or where you want to go, and it doesn't actually lead you towards the bigger goals. So I think if you break it down into monthly and weekly, like Danny said, then you're much better, you know, you're more likely to stay on track to where you want to go. Otherwise, you could spend a lot of time working on something that isn't going to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, magpie syndrome as well. When you see other entrepreneurs doing stuff and you're like, "Whoa, should I be doing that?" And then you completely go off. See, I do it term time, so I do it per term because of the kids. So I set term goals. So I have a goal per term, because obviously taking time off as well. But I just, yeah, I love the January feeling. So I'm trying to put that into the year, so it's not just January, so I don't feel that come January it's all on one day or 1 week, the start of January. And also I feel like when everyone starts slowing down from like November, December, then's the time to hit, you know, then's the time to be going harder. So yeah, I don't do the whole January the 1st thing. I'm already going now. So yeah, I probably do smaller goals, but I still try and hit some goals then. And love a post-it, love a big piece of white paper, you know, whether it's wallpaper or whatever it is, as long as it's big and I can write on it, and yeah, and sit and do it. But try not to do too much, because I will then not achieve the goal, because I love to sit and not finish things.
That whole thing, isn't there, when you're doing like a study plan? It's quite a common thing, isn't it, when you were at school or, you know, education, and you'd spend the whole time putting your study plan together with your different colors and pens that you'd never leave time for actually revising. So I feel that's the same with this. Is I could lose hours, like say creating post-its, making everything color coordinated. I mean, don't get me started on a spreadsheet. I'll lose hours on those, just, you know, because everything's got to be color coordinated, which actually it doesn't make any difference. So it's like, yeah, I think you can lose a lot of time to planning and goal setting and not actually taking action, which I think is why for me the task setting is an important part of it all. Otherwise, you know, it's a great idea on a very colorful bit of paper, but
what are we saying? You should really do it in a couple of hours? Should this be something that we should do in an hour, you know, setting a goal and getting it achieved, you know, writing down all the little bits? Or are we saying that, you know, you should take a day, a week?
I think it works for you, like, you know, and what's realistic in your life. If you can take a day out to do, you know, your real planning and really get it there, and then you're set, brilliant. But how realistic is that for a lot of people? Maybe not. And maybe that doesn't work for you, because after a couple of hours your brain is, you know, or you get too many ideas, and like you say, we do that magpie. So I think it's experimenting and finding what works for you, like anything. But I think the key thing is what Laura just said about taking action. You know, they say if you haven't got a date in there, it's just a dream. You know, you need to have some kind of accountability. You need to actually have some tasks. And even if you put a date in and you don't achieve that, that isn't what matters. The point is that it gives you some accountability and you're actually doing something, because otherwise planning is great, but if we're not taking action, then it is effectively another form of procrastination. Yeah, I could happily spend a whole day every week just planning, but then that's not moving my business forward at all, because then I'm running out of time to actually do anything. But there is just what you said, Laurie said a minute ago about, you know, if you set too many goals and then you don't achieve them. And I think we probably can all resonate with that. I know there was a period in time where I thought, I don't want to set goals anymore, because all I do is set them and I'm not achieving them. And then I heard a quote, which I love. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I'm not going to say exactly right, but it's Tony Robbins. And it's basically along the lines of, it's not about the goal, it's the person you become trying to achieve it. So I've probably paraphrased, but it you know, often it doesn't actually matter so much if we don't achieve the goals, or we don't achieve the goals by the time we set them, because by setting the goal, you're at least going to be doing something in that direction. Or even if you're not taking the action yet on that particular goal, you're aware of it, and you're maybe going to notice the opportunities as they come up. And someone might say, oh, I was talking to someone about this and I'm interested. And you'd be like, oh, ears prick up, because I want to do that. So I think even if we don't always achieve the goals, just the process of setting them can help us in going towards them and achieving the things that we want eventually. Maybe not in the time frame we would like, but because we all tend to be a little bit over ambitious and want everything now. But at least that taking that time to plan and think about what we want, we're 10 times more likely to achieve it than if we don't make that time to actually stop and consider, what is it I want.
It's that action taken, isn't it? Because I was talking to my coach about this, and I'm like, look, I know I'm not the best brand designer in the world. I'm a good brand designer. I've got a lot of skill because I'm old. But there's younger brand designers that aren't as good, but they're killing it. And she's like, that's because they've took action and you haven't. And she's like, they might not be the best, but they've took action and you've not. And it's like, oh, man, she's so right. She's so right. Like she says, they've jumped on social media quicker. They've jumped on trends quicker. You've not took action. You've sat there and you thought, I'm going to plan that in. So although, goals is brilliant and I love doing goals, I've now got to become more of a quicker action taker. So I've got to set quick little goals now. So it's that snowball effect. Big goals there. I'm going to slowly work towards it. But what actions can I start taking now? And she was like, your balance with your work and the action taken for your business is off. And so I've got to now, one of my goals is to start taking more action in my business than client work, and try and get those higher ticket clients and those bigger clients in. So action is definitely, a goal, and it's something I've got to work towards this next term.
And I think that becomes easier when you have a goal in mind. So, when I was sort of creating the new Creative Little World website for, with the tools and stuff for freelancers, I was like, well, what is that going to be? What's the big goal for that? And then at each point, what does that involve? What do I need? What tasks do I need to set myself to make that happen? And because I had a real clear goal and vision of what I wanted the website to be, it made it easier to then work towards it. And I think it's sort of the best project I've had in that sense, because I had real clarity in my head. I was like, well, I know what I want it to look like, and I know the big goal and vision for the end of it. So now I can break it down into what needs to happen to make that, to get me towards that goal. So I think it's the actions, and then a real clear goal. And it doesn't have to be like, I know they like to say, sky's the limit. And you said, these big lofty goals are great. But once you've got something that's really clear and feels achievable as well, because once you break it down, you suddenly go, actually, I can get from there to there. Whereas at first it can feel, well, I'm never going to get there. How, that's impossible. And then I'm sure Danny can interject with mindset. That must play havoc, because you think, well, I'm never going to get there. You're never going to take steps to get there, and you're going to spend all your time planning rather than doing. So I think it's those mid goals perhaps is what I'm getting towards, are the ones that are going to really help you move forward.
So Danny, what do you do if you don't reach your goal? What mindset can help you if you don't reach the goal? Is it looking at it and thinking, that wasn't the right goal, the right goal was the journey? Or is it looking at maybe tweaking your goals? How do you make sure it doesn't affect your mindset so much?
Yeah, well, I think that is going to be different for everyone, right? So it is that taking the time to think about, what is it? Is it that it wasn't the right goal? Like, is that really what I want? Or is it that, it is the right goal, but maybe I was a bit ambitious with the time frame that I set. So I still want to work towards it, but I just need to give myself a bit more time, or something happened in my life that got in the way of that, and that's okay. So I think take the time to reflect, and then be kind to yourself, because we're all human and we all have other things going on in our life. And we know as entrepreneurs, we're wearing a million hats just within that role, but then we're also partners, maybe parents, or carers, or whatever we are. We have other things going on. So it's just the way it is. How many people are going to achieve every single goal? And even if you achieved every single goal in your business, what are you then potentially sacrificing in the rest of your life in order to do that? So just, I think, reminding yourself that it's okay that I didn't achieve it exactly how I wanted. Do I still want this goal? And in which case, what's going to help me to get there now? Or maybe is it okay to let it go? You know, sometimes I think we set ourselves a goal and then we go, well, I have to now keep going until I get it. It's okay to just go, well, actually, that's not right for me. I've tried it and I've realized it's that whole there's no such thing as failure thing. You fail quickly, you find out what it is, and you go, have I just found out that the way I'm trying to do it doesn't work and I need to find a different way? Or have I just found out that this isn't right for me and I'm going to try something completely different? And I kind of, it's weird as a coach, I kind of get excited when someone says, oh, I've got this goal, but I feel like I'm not taking action on it. Because then I'm like, oh, okay, this is juicy. Why aren't you taking action? So that's kind of where a lot of the work I'll do is, what is it that's stopping you from taking the action? You know, is it just habits? Like you were saying, Laura, about, you know, your balance is off between your client work versus work in your business. Is it just that that's become a habit that you tend to prioritize that and you need to shift your time? Or is it that there's a fear that, you know, what if I do it and I fail? Is there a fear of what if I do it and I'm really successful and then what will people think? Is there a fear of being judged? You know, it's all of these things that, you know, get in our way. Is it imposter syndrome? Is it self-doubt? So it's also being aware of those things when you're, you know, if you feel like you've got this goal and you know, this is really something I want to do and I do feel like this is right for me, but you're really struggling to take action. What is it that's stopping you? You know, is there a fear there? Is there something you're scared of? Is there a doubt? And you might be able to work through that and figure that out yourself, or you might need to reach out for some help from someone and support. But just, again, it's taking that time to think about that and give yourself the time to reflect, because it isn't a one rule, you know, one size fits all. Everyone's goals are different and everyone's process is different. So you need to take the time to be aware of what is working for you and what's not working for you.
Having someone accountable, I think, or having somebody that can be there to help you and support you is gold, really, as an entrepreneur, because it is a lonely business. Do you find that, Laura? Do you find having kind of an accountability buddy or having like a mindset coach or somebody that can help you, do you find that helps you work towards your goals quicker? What do you do? Do you have somebody that's there in the background helping you and supporting you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a couple of community groups, some freelancing networks, and like a mastermind group. So I'm in a few different things, but I find that I'm one of those people, because maybe it's the people pleaser in me, but once I've said to someone, oh yeah, by next time we're, you know, together, I will have done X, Y, and Z, it does motivate me to do it, because I don't want to turn up on that call and then say, did you do it? And me say, no. So to save myself, I do that. I think if you set the intention and almost saying it out loud, and saying it to someone else is helpful. So whether that's a coach or, you know, a fellow entrepreneur or freelancer or a friend, just saying it out, or even your partner, just telling them what you're going to do or what you're planning to do over the next couple of weeks can be really helpful, because I think, you know, we all want to do well, and if someone's waiting for us to do it, and sometimes putting it out there on social media, like I've announced things on social media before, like that this is upcoming, and that's given me the drive, because I was like, well, I've told everyone now, so I better deliver it. You can always make yourself accountable just by saying it out loud.
That's it. I'm going to start following closely now what you're saying, so I can that's it. Me and Danny are going to be there going, have you done it?
yeah, I do.
Oh, well, that's brilliant, ladies. I think we've covered loads with goals, and hopefully helped a few people in realizing that we all slightly do it differently, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, it's improvement and it's never failure, is it? Doing a goal and achieving it or not achieving it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very personal, I think, isn't it? Set goals that suit you and do it in a way that works for you.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to set them, because even if, like I say, you're not achieving them, just the process of setting them is going to help you to give you that more awareness of what it is you want and what you're working towards. So it gives you that focus.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Perfect.